time! That's it. That's all you're getting. What, you didn't think I was actually gonna try and summarize the plot of Tenet? Tenet? It's impossible! That, and I don't really want to spoil it for you guys, so you're welcome. Ungrateful kids, I mean, honestly. So Christopher Nolan is a dude who is a really big fan of mystery. He likes withholding information from you for large portions of the film so that you go on this journey to discover that information with him. The hidden details of that story. But even then, there's still details that are kept under wraps or open to interpretation. That's sort of his way of respecting the audience, not just by making films that you can constantly go back and rewatch to find the hidden details, but he doesn't treat the audience like idiots. He treats the audience like smart people. And it's because there are so many hidden details within Tenet that I think this film is a film that you'll either love or hate. Tenet is a very complicated film, especially compared to many of Nolan's other films. You could even say it's sort of inaccessible. That's because for the first hour of this movie, it's like you're running to catch up. There's so much that's hidden throughout the film that it just flies by very quickly. There's vitally important insert shots that are really important to the characters in terms of what it means for them later that just buzz by so quickly. It's definitely a film that's going to take multiple viewings to fully appreciate, but at the same time, one of the reasons I love Nolan's movies is because he takes money that the studio gives him and makes a brazen-faced movie that leaves people with questions and wanting more in a good way. And Tenet, for me, is no exception. All around, the acting is very good. John David Washington is excellent in this film. He's such a likable and charismatic presence on screen that I just couldn't help but get invested in his character despite not knowing much about him. Saying that, his character feels more like an object with the purpose of conveying Nolan's story to us instead of an actual character. I would even go as far as to say that he's essentially a plot device. The guy doesn't even have a name, he's just the protagonist, and his main motivation for even being in the film seems to mainly revolve around helping Elizabeth Debicki's character, so as a lead character, the protagonist isn't particularly interesting. That said, the film works because there is a central reason for him being there, and you understand why that is, and most importantly, you understand why everyone is working towards a specific goal. Robert Pattinson is brilliant. He works super well with Washington. Their dynamic is definitely one of the more fascinating parts of this movie, and I think the two actors have amazing chemistry that's hard not to be invested in, even though you don't know much about these characters. Elizabeth Debicki is also brilliant. She's pretty much the heart and soul of this movie. She's the only character in this movie that I would say felt like an actual character. She actually has an arc in this movie, which not only enhanced the movie's story by adding considerable emotional weight and tension, but I was just wrapped up in her character. I was constantly feeling sympathy for her and rooting for her to succeed in some way throughout the entire film. Kenneth Branagh was a pretty intimidating character. He plays a fairly villainous dude, and doing everything he possibly can to chew the scenery was pretty much his thing throughout the movie, so he comes across as really, really, really big and over the top. But it worked for me. Truthfully, I'm not the biggest fan of his work, but it worked for me. Nolan does deliberately keep a lot of info a secret, right up until the end when you do experience some sort of reveal that completely recontextualizes the rest of the movie, and it makes you rethink certain things that happen throughout the film. Although, you could argue that the idea that it's a reveal that makes you rethink the movie without really doing anything to enhance the characters in some way is a problem, and I would totally get where you're coming from with that. If I'm being completely honest, I didn't really care about many of the characters, because while they are charismatic and likable, many of them just ain't that interesting because I don't know much about them, and the movie doesn't want to tell me much about them. I would argue though that the film is held up by the plot and an incredible amount of visual spectacle that is almost constant in terms of its variety, originality, and excitement. I did find myself wrapped up and fascinated by the story despite the film being emotionally distant due to a lack of proper character development. It is without a doubt a very plot-driven movie, which is why I'm so happy that the plot was just so dang engaging. I found the way that this story progressed, as well as certain things that are revealed, whether it's through conversations that the characters have or through visual cues, to be ridiculously engaging. And the way this movie deals with the concept of time is remarkably original and utterly fascinating. Previously, some of Nolan's films featured a non-linear story structure, but here he takes the whole concept of time and the manipulation of time to the next level by featuring people and even objects that are all moving in different directions and spaces of time within one shot, which in this film is called inversion. The spectacle that results from this is breathtaking, and the things that Nolan is able to accomplish in camera with a minimal amount of CGI is incredible. There will be scenes where people are moving forwards whilst other people are moving backwards at the same time, sometimes someone who is moving backwards and someone who is moving forwards will fight in some way, whether it's through a hand-to-hand combat sequence or a highway chase. Watching all of that happen on screen is a mind-bending experience, which is why I am so glad that this is the first movie I saw in the cinema for the first time in months. The highlights for me were that fight scene where a dude who is moving backwards and a dude who is moving forwards fight each other, and a miraculous shot in which a building reassembles itself while also blowing up. That is legit one of the coolest things I have ever seen. The score is also amazing. A lot of the music kind of has this reversed quality to it, which does match some of the spectacle that you're seeing, which was really, really cool. I honestly thought that Hans Zimmer had done the score for this movie, seeing as how it does sound very Hans Zimmer-y. So you can imagine my surprise, shock, and burst of sudden joy when my dumbass remembered that Ludwig Göransson was the one that did the score for this movie, and he's really, really good. Every score I've heard from this dude is incredible, whether we're talking about the scores for Ryan Coogler's movies such as Creed and Black Panther, or the score for The Mandalorian. I think he's one of the best new talents working today, and I loved everything he did for this movie. There is one major issue I have with the sound, and it's something I haven't really liked about any of Nolan's films since The Dark Knight Rises. Nolan seems to like doing this thing where sound effects and score are louder than dialogue. So there are a number of scenes where this does happen, and in a number of scenes, I just couldn't tell what people were even saying. And I have no idea why Nolan does this. Like Inception, this movie is filled with leisurely strolls through very beautiful backgrounds, and they usually give exposition during these scenes. I don't have a problem with that, but the score is often blaring really loudly over these scenes, which can make the dialogue really hard to hear. And just to add insult to injury, there are also a lot of scenes where people talk very fast and very quick and sometimes really quietly, which makes what they're saying a little bit hard to hear. Quite genius when you think about it, because not only will people be watching the film again to see what they missed and fully understand the film, but they will also be going back to try and figure out what the shitstick the characters were even saying. Brilliant! Annoying, but brilliant! On the whole, though, I do really like this movie. Yes, most of its characters aren't that interesting, but not only are they very charismatic and likable, but the plot is undeniably really engaging for me, and the spectacle of this movie and how it utilizes the concept of time and the manipulation of it is something to behold. Maybe my obsession with time manipulation is getting the better of me here, but either way, I would be lying to you if I said I didn't have a total blast watching Tenet. Going back to the cinema for the first time in months, which is by far the longest stretch of time I've been away from a cinema, was a really surreal and refreshing experience, and I am really glad that my reintroduction to the cinematic experience was Tenet. Tenet gets a 9.3 out of 10. Tenet, get it? Because Tenet? No? Okay. So that was my review of Tenet. I do hope you enjoyed this video, guys. Thank you so much, as always, for watching. Before I go, though, I would just like to ask you guys, what did you think of Tenet? Did you think it was good? Did you think it was bad? Did you think it was somewhere in the middle? Could you even hear anything? Please leave your thoughts down in the comments below, and I will indeed see you guys in the next one. Until next time, live long and prosper, and may the Force be with you. Always.